But the house was built in 1820. It was remodeled in 2005. The amazing part of the story is what it looked like before. Architecturally in this space, this was not an oak cased opening. This was a wall, and it was really dark in here, and I really felt like the proportions of the room should have been symmetrical, especially for the time. And so I opened it up, and this was an existing opening, but it was dropped. And so I actually had the casings raised to the height of the French doors. I think the trick to doing a kitchen that is this functional and this beautiful in a historic property is the challenge of marrying modern function to historic architecture. And a truly modern looking kitchen would not have worked. In fact, that was what the previous owner tried, and it just was not appropriate for the house. And so I always work on making not only the layout functional, beautiful, and relevant to the style of the owner, but I also relate the cabinetry to the architecture. And so one of the things I did here is I designed an entablature, or a cornice, if you will, at the head of all the cabinetry that has a kind of neoclassical motif with the circle and dart, and that relates definitely to the period of the construction of this property, but in just a subtle way. It still looks completely like it could have been here from the beginning. And then I add some kind of interesting modern touches. I did some steel inserts on the island, and I did a brass ferrule, and then all of the hardware was custom designed for this client. I wanted a little bit of a natural element, and so these kind of bamboo looking pieces were made for her, and they've been plated with nickel. One of my favorite finds for this room was the vintage coral chandelier. Simple but elegant and very appropriate for Charleston without being coastal. When I first walked in, my first thought was, this looks like an English conservatory. And it looks out onto the garden. This is the main dining room for the house, which is also very unusual for Charleston. The idea is that you would come into a garden, and as you rise up into the house, you would go up into the canopy of the trees. And so by the third floor, you are in the canopy of tree, and you can there's no more ground vegetation. It's in the treetops, and the artist was able to capture that for me. A lot of the foliage that we have in the mural is actually plantings that are from the garden. So as you also climb and ascend into these treetops, you also can look up and see that the lanterns go all the way up, so that you still get the effect that you're in a garden. The owner loves neoclassical design, and so you'll see neoclassical as a strong element that I brought in architecturally throughout the house, and I've repeated it subtly in the furnishings. Everything in the property was made or purchased for the property, with the exception of a sofa and 2 chairs and a piece of art. I designed this room so that she could house her existing album collection, but then have room to grow it. The chandelier was made for her in Murano, Italy, and it has 138 hand-blown pieces of glass. The art collection that you see is what I do a lot. It's placeholders for her to acquire her own art. So this is what I call reasonably priced art, and I love to do this because it gives the owners proportions to look for, but then they get to, create their own collection, but it doesn't leave empty walls until that happens. So the wonderful thing about Charleston is to go and explore the city, explore all the amazing art museums here, and you need to have a place to put all of your newly acquired art. I like to go ahead and set the stage for someone and then let them do it on their